everyone. This is on. For joining us. Usually you have a panel where an investor is facilitating for several founders. So we wanted to flip that today, and I will play the role of facilitator. So first, I wanted to start with some quick intros. So just a bit about your background and why you started investing in decentralized AI.
Please.
Either way. OK, this is on? Yeah. OK, awesome. Yeah, my name is Casey, and my quick background is that I'm a computer scientist by training and started my career mainly as an engineer at Google, and then got into investing through actually starting to mine crypto when I was in college and grad school. Originally met Anna through that entire arc, and then most recently was an investment partner at Paradigm, and now I'm starting my own frontier tech firm. And was that the only question, or something about decentralized AI? Decentralized AI. I mean, I'm investing across frontier tech, but I've been in crypto for a really long time and also just academically studied AI. And I think that AGI is real. I think it's actually coming. And I feel that crypto is a really good contender to shift it in terms of where it's going and keep it open.
Hi. Did my PhD in machine learning in the 90s, speech recognition. So that was my kind of AI was my first love in tech. And then I got really disillusioned when I moved to Silicon Valley because we were just using AI to like mine people. Got into crypto in 2013, helped to start Pantera Capital. 2017 started a decentralized VPN called Orchid. I've been angel investing for the last 3 or 4 years, as well as doing stuff at Pantera back in the day. The AI thing, I kind of fell in love again with AI a couple of years ago when I realized that we were not just mining humans, and now we could actually like do some interesting things, and perhaps these idea of agents would be real. And initially, I was very skeptical about this hybrid idea of crypto and AI, and I'm still actually pretty skeptical. So within that skepticism, what I'm building now with Nazare is a fun focus on AI, of which some things we do will be decentralized. I'm like not here to save the world, by the way, despite like many people want to save the world. I would hope to make the world a slightly better place afterwards, and some of the things we do will do that, but we're not investing for religious purposes. I think decentralized technologies can be better for building things and more efficient, and that's why I think they're interesting, not because the world's a better place. Yeah.
Well, I'm here to say.
Not a communist.
Yeah, my name is Anand. I've been living in Silicon Valley for as long as I can remember, and I think my introduction to AI really started through osmosis. I did take one programming class in Lisp in 1999. That was my introduction to AI. I'm dating myself significantly. Most people here do not know what Lisp is. That's OK.
That's not AI anymore, right? That's like not AI.
Exactly, yes. But that's what
old AI.
That was AI pre-Transformers a long time ago. Yeah, so you can hang. But it's a giant bottle of water. We'll all have to share somehow. For me, I think it was, started to see tailwinds in 2022, met some cool people, like the people building Jensen and the folks building BitTensor. And it felt like, it just felt like an opportunity to create impact unlike any other. And so I just got very convicted. And I don't mean to say this jokingly, but I do feel like this is, Anna and I were talking about this earlier. This feels to me like this might be the last thing that that we do, right? And so if AGI is that imminent. And so I really feel like doing something super credible and impactful, I feel like it's incumbent upon us to enable and create the future we want to live in. So this felt like that thing for me. And so that's when I started investing in it.
OK, great. And if folks don't know these people, these are the ones founders are fighting to have on their cap table right now, especially Casey. So we should listen closely. So what have you changed your mind on or has played out differently than you've expected within DEI over the past year? Can be positive or negative.
I'll start. Oh, I was going to start with something a little bit more pessimistic. We can end on a more positive note, but I feel that you like that.
I live in Europe now. I'm a pessimist all the time.
Yeah, you seem like a realist.
Move.
I don't know you yet.
Yeah, I
but-
got out of San Francisco. I drank the Kool-Aid for years. I'm like out of it now. So refreshing.
Okay, the thing that I feel is that what's primarily worked in crypto AI is narrative and memetics, and so we see this a lot in different sectors, but really the things that have taken off over this year, I feel, don't have empirical traction or maybe are even like a little bit weaker on the technical front. I think that will shift, but I think that there's just been a lot of latent demand to get exposure to the category, and so people are looking for easy avenues to rotate capital and specifically crypto capital into this intersection. Do you disagree?
I think the memes were amazing this year.
You liked them.
Yeah. And it's like the whole crypto AI thing was basically a whole meme this year. And then people now start to realize that maybe there's something more. Maybe we should actually build some things. But I've been astonished by how fast, for example, BitTensor grew. And just the amount of people just aping into that thing is incredible. So that was a big surprise to me. I did not think it would get so memetic so fast. But I think I'm just stupid because I've been in crypto so long and that this always happens. Like we have NFTs and the next thing you know, it's like, oh my God, what happened? Okay.
Sorry, was the question that what's happened in the last year? Is that
That you wouldn't have expected, yeah. Like, what have you changed your mind on?
Yeah, you know, I mean, just fitting the theme of this event, I honestly thought open source would become more front and center. And I mean, and of course, there's sort of like bifurcation there, open source, open weights, open data. But I truly mean like all of it, right? So I think that, to me, hasn't quite happened yet, and I hope it'll happen thanks to efforts like yours. I think we've over-indexed. Maybe, I don't know, like calling this memetic would be problematic. But I mean, yes, you know, there's been a lot of like focusing on decentralized compute networks for training, right? Let's bootstrap our network to do X, and some copycats there. So I feel like that's, yeah, there's low-hanging fruit there. So I think we rotated into that quite a bit. And so,
Do you think those will work?
Say again?
Do you think decentralized compute networks for training will work?
I think for fine-tuning, I know for a fact, we had a whole panel on this a little while ago, it seems to be off the ground and working. And I think that's perfect.
Without changing the training algorithm?
Without changing the algorithm?
The training algorithms, you think that these things?
For fine-tuning, yeah, it feels like I think we're on our way. I mean, I've personally used Akash for fine-tuning, but I'm not in the business of trying to.
If anyone's developing a new training algorithm that works for distributed, I will invest in you. Talk to me. I'm not coming for you. I'm just like letting you know. If anyone's got one, I am down because I don't think any of them work.
Awesome.
And my PhD was in mixtures of experts, which is the basis for branch train mix and all these things. So
yeah,
I think they're like kind of pseudo. Sorry, I'm not coming for you. I'm just trying to like have some fun on the panel.
I've got a company for you after this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool.
No, that's helpful.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that's like that distributed training category you're excited about.
I'd be excited if it worked.
Totally, yeah.
I agree with you on fine-tuning, but I've seen people pitch me on like, we're going to go in and take over training, and I'm like, this doesn't work. Like the things need to be next to each other. Like it's the basics. You have to completely rewrite the training algorithm.
I think it's sorry not to harp on this for too long, but it also depends on like I don't know how much more effort we want to put in training versus fine-tuning, right? Like I think that's where I'm trying to piece apart because there's I feel like there's a lot of incumbent work that's gone into training quite a bit. So I feel like we can pick up from where incumbents have left off to fine-tune a little bit more. So, but yeah.
Cool. And then in terms of categories, like what categories within DEAI are you most excited about? And where do you think it's going to start kind of heading over the next few years? Or even further, if you want to think on a 10-year time horizon or even 50-year time horizon.
Yeah, I can take a crack. I know we were chatting about this earlier, and I was saying that I've been spending a lot of time sort of philosophizing on this, and I'll keep this brief, but it feels like, again, you know, I don't know how many times AGI has come up before, today at least, but if it's imminent, like let's say it's the next few years, right? Rethinking, I guess, two things for me. One is UBI, just a form of income for humans, because if a lot of our work is going to be taken over, I feel like that is something worth exploring. That's number one. that I've been thinking a little bit about. The other is, just brass tacks, how we interact with API endpoints today to be able to get information. I think that concept is very much, it is programmatic in nature, right? We have consumer endpoints, or consumers that hit certain endpoints and data is extracted, or we push, whatever the case might be. Those might need to get rethought for like an agentic world. It just feels like they're going to operate differently. The way they consume information, read, write, and do that on our behalf, that whole infrastructure needs to look very different. So that feels like, again, maybe, I don't know, a year or two out. So I've been thinking about that a little bit. But that's the longish term time horizon, in this case, 2 years. That's what I would say.
Okay, I'll do like a talk to me like I'm 5 kind of thing. So here's what I think might work. I think it's possible that aggregating compute is cheaper for certain use cases. It's possible. Not even probable, but in the realm of possibilities. I think all agentic flows, or most agentic flows, might be powered by crypto as for payments. I think that makes a lot of sense. Again, like it's not happening yet, but it might happen. And then I think mimetically, like the category is just, AI is really, really hard to make money in right now because of the consolidation happening upstream. And so there's just like worldwide demand for exposure to this transformational technology. And I think it might continue to rotate into crypto. And so we'll see that in a few different categories. And then the last thing is like data ownership and data aggregation. To your point about fine tuning, I feel that it's becoming really prevalent and a widespread belief that data is more powerful than we previously thought. And so like to protocols like Vana that are going to start transforming that, I think they're going to work as well.
I'm going to go with the question I asked recently on this panel about an hour ago. And borrowing from the Sequoia guy, he talks about this $600 billion hole in AI, not decentralized AI, but just AI, which is AI infrastructure investment compared to revenue. It used to be like 100 or 200 billion, now it's 600 billion. So you look at that and you're like, are people really going to keep spending this much money on like, what exactly? Where's the return? So either we're going to have $600 billion of applications suddenly emerge, whether they're AI centralized or decentralized. I try not to discriminate. It's just, don't want to get too judgy. Or those costs are going to come way, way down, right? So there's a couple of things to think through here is this idea that NVIDIA is the only game in town, and also that GPU is the only game in town, is an assumption that comes from, and it's a good one, comes from, when this guy started playing with, the other guy, started playing with GPUs, and Ilya, the other Ilya started playing with GPUs and saying, hey, what if you just had really dumb neural networks put on GPUs with like a shitload of data, build tons and tons of data. And it's like, turns out that's really good. But if you sort of change the assumptions there, neural networks didn't used to be trained on GPUs. And maybe you can try decentralized approaches. So if you can like dramatically drop that cost, that is a huge opportunity. Well, that's where I'm focusing.
Cool. And then thinking about kind of like actually your LPs, right, and who you message to, like how do you explain the decentralized opportunity to them?
They don't know what we're talking about.
That is so true.
They have no idea. You just got to dumb it down. Be like, big, smart thing, make money. Right?
Smart people working in
We're so cool. That's basically it. That's how you sell to LPs. I try not to. I try not to sort of specify like exactly how it's going to happen because, that's being a bit too definitive. But I think people understand the AI opportunity. I guess I'd say it like this. Every company will have an AI component in the future, and every company will, I believe, have a crypto component. That's what I've believed for the last 11 years. So if you kind of squint, the two things go together, and then there's your opportunity. Primarily, I focus on cost cutting, like how do you make money from the fact that this thing could be cheaper. And then the stuff you guys were talking about with the sort of agentic components is like, how do you marshal resources and connect things together? Eric Voorhees put this really well as like, agents aren't going to have bank accounts. Maybe they could have bank accounts. Stripe probably did a great job, but they won't.
Yeah, I would say that like, there's a talk track in my head, which is, I try to lean into this as much as I can. I think in crypto, and I've been a founder and a builder longer than I've been an investor. But I think Mark Andreessen said this really well a long time ago, which is, the best founders will their idea or will their perception into reality. And I try to do the same thing with my pitches. And I don't know if it always lands, but I try. So yeah, I'm here trying to talk to them about why this is the future that I want to help create. I like working with great founders. And there's no bear case for AI. Like everything's going to have AI infused in some form or fashion. And this intersection is particularly exciting because this is a future that it's worth building towards. And so these are some of the talk track things that I use. And of course, I also make it very clear that this opportunity feels very topical and episodic. Like it's not one that might repeat itself. But if we were doing this panel a year ago, this might look very different, right? And so in that there weren't as many people bought into this. Maybe the year before that, fewer so then, right? And now coming into EthCC, there's so many events focused on this. So I feel like the opportunity is growing. And I try to talk to our LPs about the fact that this is going to continue to grow, and the spotlight on it is pretty large. So that's my typical talk track.
Yeah, I think the only thing not mentioned is just that, at least where I'm investing at the earliest stages, it's a lot about talent. And if you go find the two biggest or most salient features that we look for in humans are brilliance and hunger. If you go find the most hungry, brilliant kids that are coming out of university and you ask what you're working in, it's either crypto or AI. That's just the reality. Maybe bio now, but generally in that area. And so just generally betting on talent flows is usually a pretty surefire way of investing.
I think that's a good point. And so we have an investment in a company which doesn't have anything to do with crypto, but the guys running are crypto guys, former crypto. And I think that's something I noticed as well, is that the talent you get just coming out of this university of people is also fantastic. And that's perhaps the most interesting combination of the two things.
And what do you see in decentralized AI that others may not? And generally, sort of, how do you compare to other investors, right? Why is your capital better than someone else's, and what do you see that others don't?
This is quite the contentious question.
Provocative.
Yeah.
I'm not going first.
We can co-invest.
Exactly, yeah.
All of us.
Yeah, there we go. A question answered.
You guys are never going to invest with me now.
I can go. I mean, and I don't think there's any competitive pressure here, but talent is paramount. I think trying to figure out a way to, I agree. Capital is, I hate to say it in brass tacks, it's commoditized to a large extent, right? So, I said this thing last week, and I don't know. I've always thought about whether I should put this out on Twitter or not, but I probably shouldn't. I think I'm gonna get a lot of flack for it. But I was a founder. I've been through the journey. I've made all the mistakes that you can possibly make having raised capital before. I worked with great VCs. I worked with mediocre VCs, with terrible VCs. I think there's two categories of VCs that I would subscribe to working with, and those are the ones I would want on my cap table, and I aspire to be like one of them. You either want a career builder, operator, founder who's done this, who's scaled it, seen things that no one else has seen before, and can be super instrumental in helping you with that scale, or you want a career investor, someone who knows how to pattern match unlike anything else. So if you can find one of these, or two, or both of them.
What was the latter?
Career investor, someone who's been doing this for a long time and has been able to pattern match. And again, when I say career, we learn things very quickly these days, right? So it doesn't matter, it's not 35 years worth of intel. But I feel like those are great folks to have on your cap table. And of course, then you have your syndicate of folks, other founders, operators, builders to sort of piggyback with. So I guess maybe coming back to the question, I would say that I'm not a career investor, but I have built companies, failed and succeeded, and I try to use that as the way in which I can support our teams. It works sometimes.
What he said. Pretty similar. I don't know. What was the question again? Why would you take my capital versus someone else's?
Somebody take your money.
Yeah, or just sort of in different.
I'm really
Could
fun.
be that you see something
really fun to be with.
Yeah.
It's basically you want to hang out with me. That's it. Kind of like what you said, but it's I guess I saw it as when things are really you have no idea what to do, you can call me. I'll help you figure it out. I either know someone or I've done it, and we'll figure it out together. I think a lot of investors are there for the good times. right? They're definitely there when you're doing the next round, all those kind of things, or not. But I like getting in the trenches, like getting really early, getting and trying to figure out hard problems. The harder the better, and doing stuff for people. That's what I like.
I would say the question of, take my capital versus others doesn't come up that often because I usually find you first. Before other people find you, because that's what I'm trying to do is hunt incredible people. But if it was at a side-by-side comparison, I think that the two pillars of Topology are that we're deeply technical and engineers, and then we're deeply human, and we really try to take care of you as full people. And we think that the founder journey is really fucking hard, and there's a lot of ups and downs, and just being there through it all, and maybe not so in the trenches, but just being able to hold space for the 3D human version of yourself. Yeah.
Cool. And then last question, maybe 1 or 2 sentence answer of just something that you've learned recently that you can teach the audience.
Okay. Well, I'm actually prepared for this. I'm prepared for. I actually did want to do an AI thing, but just this is what's top of mind. This is what I learned yesterday, and so I'm going to go with it. But yeah, my friend and I, who studied evolutionary psych, and I were talking about the lessening deviation between males and females in terms of hormonal differences, and over the last call it 100 years. And there's this really interesting study from 2010 where basically frogs are looked at that consume the #1 pesticide in the United States. And it's something like 70% at a certain exposure level of males actually transfer into being females on a hormonal level. And Europe basically outlawed this pesticide, but the US continues to use it. And a lot of scientists believe that this is the reason that there's a testosterone decline. And yeah, just there's never ever been a time in history where males and females are more closely coupled on a hormonal basis. And I just think that's really interesting that we still allow it in the US. I can send anyone the study if they're interested.
I just had another kid.
Please do it. Please do it.
I just had another kid, so my testosterone's good. But I did leave San Francisco 4 years ago, so I'm just saying maybe it's time to go.
Segueing from hormones, I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to try. I don't this thing. Well, yeah, this is completely non sequitur, but I feel like
this is the only way at this point is to be non sequitur.
I know exactly. Maybe I was reading this thing about how SoftBank had sold their position in NVIDIA back in 2019. Did you folks see this? Yeah, some of you did. So they sold their position for $3.6 billion or something like that back in 2019. Does anyone know what that position would be worth today had they held on to it? An order of magnitude off. About 150 billion. I don't know what NVIDIA's stock price is. So, but I mean, look, this isn't to call out anyone who made that trade, because in 2019 this didn't feel like the right thing to do. So maybe the takeaway is that timing is everything, right? That wasn't a bad thing to do. You felt like you could take that capital investment in something else or return it back. But timing is paramount.
Great. Thanks so much for joining this lovely investor panel, and thanks for answering the questions. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you.